Welcome to Six Tackles with Gus. Great to be with you for another week. A day later than normal because we wanted to reflect on a very special night for rugby league, the induction of the game's 14th Immortal.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 14th Immortal is Ron Coote.
Yes, the legendary Ron Coote finally bestowed the honour many believe was overdue, a career to celebrate some 43 years after his retirement. Phil Gould, welcome.
Matthew Thompson, how you doing?
I'm good. I love this decision. I love the fact that he's been elevated to immortal status so long after his retirement because it shows that the game remains attached to its history. It's evolved, but it shows it's never too late to recognise a legend of the sport.
Isn't that what the word immortal is supposed to mean?
Of
It's
course,
an immortal.
yeah.
It's a name that will be, as part of our game for eternity. And Ron Coote's name will always be that. He was an exceptional player back in the day. Ron Coote played in the era where I fell in love with rugby league, very impressionable as young kids, and that's, kids are attracted by the superstars of the game, and he was a superstar of the game back then. He actually replaced my idol, who was Johnny Raper. I grew up as a Dragons fan, and Johnny Raper was the lock forward for Australia and lock forward for the Dragons. And I can remember, I'm pretty sure, my memory's not as good as it used to be, but I'm pretty sure Ron Coote replaced Johnny Raper in an Australian team. Johnny Raper moved to the back row, and they gave Ron Coote the lock forward position, which was a big feather in Ron's cap at that particular time. I also got to play against him.
Did you really?
Very, very
Wow.
late, very late in his career. Yeah, he was playing with the Roosters, and he was coming back. He had broken arms. He broke his arms a couple of times, and he came back from injury to play in a reserve grade game at the cricket ground for the Roosters. And I was a young kid playing reserve grade for the Panthers, and we played against him that day. It was a very close game. I think it only ended up 6-3 or something like that. There wasn't much in the scoreboard at all. And I remember he come and put his arm around me. He said, "Young mate," he said, "you were the best player on the field today." And I mean, that was the thing that I've remembered my
Wow.
whole career, is someone like Ron Coote coming and saying something like that to you after a game. And all those greats of the time were like that. Like Arthur Beetson was like that. He would always come and seek you out after a game to tell you how good you were or to give you some advice or whatever from a game. They were... there was the great players of that era were just super in that sort. I'm not saying the players today aren't the same, but it was a wonderful experience for a young footballer like me to have someone like him at the back end of his career playing reserve grade because he was just coming back from injury. And reserve grade comp was a pretty strong comp back in those days. You had internationals playing reserve grade in those days. And it was a memory I've kept my whole life.
What a rap.
Absolutely incredible, yeah. I don't know if I was, but I think he was just being nice. But
I don't think he'd hand out platitudes without meaning it. We'll talk more about Ron Coote's career, and we'll also acknowledge all of those wonderful contributors who have been admitted to the Hall of Fame shortly. But he's a lovely, lovely bloke, Ron Coote.
Yeah.
And he's 80 years of age. How strong does he look?
yeah,
Strong as an ox.
Yeah, he was a. Did you ever see him play? I suppose you've seen vision of him play.
I've seen vision, but never.
Go onto YouTube and watch him play. He was a long striding, tall back row forward. In the old days, lock forwards were cover defenders. He was a brilliant cover defender. He used to run down outside backs and tackle them over the sideline. And the lock forwards in those days used to wear number 8. And you'd see that number 8 on the back of the South Sydney jersey spinning across the ground as he took people into touch. And prolific try scorer on the edges. He played, I think, in a large number of grand finals, won about half a dozen comps, I think. But he was
4 grand finals.
yeah,
And then with Souths and 2 with the Roosters.
yeah. So he played every single game in a World Cup series around about 1970, I think, and he scored a try in every game. I think it had never been
Yes.
done before. Just sort of recollecting. But big, wide running back row, tall, elbows and knees. If you tried to tackle him, you're going to get hurt. But scored a lot of tries. But a lovely man. I got to know him personally. He was on the board or associated with the Sydney Roosters when I coached there for a number of years and coaching director. So I saw a fair bit of him around. He was successful in business.
Maccas.
Yeah, and he was also a big part of the Menna League, the introduction of the Menna League to the game. So
Yes.
his contributions both on and off the field have been extraordinary. And like the word immortal says, to be recognised this late in his career is not because he shouldn't have been recognised earlier. It's just how the system works sometimes, and why I also say we need to slow down a little bit on the modern day players and how soon they're introduced. And
Yeah.
what's great is that we've done it, and I'm not saying Ron's going anywhere soon, but I mean, when they get it later in life, I think it's going to mean more.
Well, I think his
than what it
response
does at the
last
time.
night showed that. We'll talk more about his career and your thoughts on that coming up. There's a lot to reflect on after a very memorable night at the Sydney Cricket Ground last evening. Let's do our yes or no. Well, I don't know if Jacob Carraz will end up an immortal, Gus, but is he an Origin player in waiting?
Yeah, absolutely. What an extraordinary young man, and what a great player he is. Been wonderful for the Bulldogs this year. He was one of those COVID kids. I'll just give you a little bit about his background. He was actually a Canterbury junior. He came from Baralla, and he before my time at the Bulldogs, he got lured away to go up and play for the Cowboys. Someone got him up there on a contract, development contract to play for the Cowboys. And when he got to the Cowboys, COVID hit. There was no lower grade football, and he never got to play football. He never got to train with the first grade side because everyone was in isolation. The talent scout from the Cowboys then moved to the Newcastle Knights and took Jacob Carraz with him to the Newcastle Knights the second year and put him on a similar contract, but this time on a 2-year deal where the second year would be top 30 on a minimum wage. Again, COVID hit. There was no lower grade football, and he didn't play He didn't play again for the Newcastle Knights. Lo and behold, after 2 years of not playing football, Newcastle Knights find him in their top 25, top 30 roster, whatever it is at the time. And the coach is saying, "Who's Jacob Carraz?"
Oh, really?
We haven't seen him play. We haven't seen him play, and and what is he? And he's an outside back. He's a centre and winger. He actually played a bit of 5'8" as a kid. Played a bit of fullback. He said, "We really need some forwards." He said, "See if we can trade him out or what have you," because he hadn't played for a couple of years anyway. And a lot of kids were in that position. So his manager came back to me, and I just started at the Bulldogs and said, "Look, this kid's a Canterbury junior. He's been to the Cowboys. He's been to Newcastle. Hasn't played any football. What do you think?" And I said, yeah, I hadn't seen him either. I'd never seen him play. And I said, "What's the deal?" He said, "Yeah, well, bring him down." So a couple of months later, we're out on the back oval, pre-season training, boiling hot, and they're doing some runs, and this bloke runs past me like a gazelle, big knees, and I said, "Who the hell's that?" I said, "That's that Jacob Carraz just on." I said, "I'm going to look like a genius here," because you could just see he was something different, and I think that he
Looks
will.
like a trotter.
Eh?
Runs like a trotter with his knees up in the
He's
air.
got look, he's hard to handle. He's gangly, and but the biggest thing is his constitution for work out of the backfield. I mean, he's excelled at centre on the couple of occasions where Stephen Crichton has been out injured. He debuted as a centre up at against the Broncos, and the first night he played, he lit it up, and he only lasted 45 minutes and kept getting bad cramps because he hadn't played for years, and all of a sudden thrust into first grade. They just weren't used to the workload, and they weren't used to the 80-minute grind of playing rugby league. So it took him a few years to get his NRL legs, but right now he regularly runs for over 200 metres. He's hard to handle. He's good under the high ball. He's safe under the high ball in defence. He's
Good lad.
champion kid.
Good.
Absolute champion kid. Lovely boy, lovely family. And the Bulldogs is where he'll be and where he'll stay. He's a very valuable member of the club, very popular, and extremely tough too. I won't give too much away, but and on a number of occasions this year, he's been ruled out on Thursday night, and he's played on Saturday. Like he
Is that
just,
right?
Yeah, he
Can't
just
keep him out.
he just keeps putting his hand up to play, and he's got a few little injuries that we'll sort out during the off season. But right at the moment, he seems to be handling things really well, and he's a very valuable member of their team.
You go good in Origin.
He's made perfectly for Origin. He's actually perfectly for Origin. Yeah, there are things I see in him that I saw in Zach Lomax years ago, and I was saying Zach Lomax was Origin class years ago. Jacob Carraz is Origin class. No risk in the world. He can play in the outside backs in Origin and do a really good job. He's got a really strong carry. He's a good defender. He can score tries and save tries, and he's got a high constitution for work. Where when you get into Origins where positions don't really mean a lot during certain parts of the game, where you've just got to get someone to carry the ball, he'll put his hand up twice in a set of 6 every time. I think he and Brian Todd are probably two of the more productive wingers in the competition at the moment.
Love it. Rival NRL clubs will be eyeing off Daniel Atkinson as a playmaker. So earlier this year, Cronulla went to Melbourne without Hines and someone, Trindle, I think might have been suspended then, or out of the game anyway. And Atkinson was their only playmaker. They won. He was their only playmaker the last 2 weeks. They flogged the Titans and he got the job done on the weekend for them.
Yeah.
How good's he going?
He's going good. It's time in the middle. I keep saying this about young playmakers. You've got to persevere. You've got to keep them in the game longer, and eventually they'll find their feet. And he's still got so much improvement left in him. I mean, and any club looking for a playmaker, and he's probably at the point now where, if all fitting well at Cronulla, well, maybe he can force his way into the side. I'm not sure, but they've got Trindle and Hines to come back. So,
good bench player.
Yeah, we're making a great number 14, but that doesn't suit young fellas sometimes. They need to get a start somewhere, and there's always clubs looking out for playmakers and fellas that can play in the halves. So I think he'll have a job for a while, whatever he does.
Yeah. I think he played more outside backs.
Yeah, he's very versatile.
Then moved into the halves, and he's been terrific.
Yeah.
Now, AJ Brimson. Well, my question here is, the Titans need him on the park for 80 minutes each game. Yes! Where's he at? I mean, he came off the bench and played hooker on the weekend. Is he a victim to his own versatility?
Probably. It's also a wealth of talent they have there at the Titans. I mean, this is a club that should not be back in the ruck where they are, although their form in recent times has improved. But they've got Keanu Kinney, they've got Jaden Campbell. I think Kieran Foran's been extended for another year. Earlier in the year, they played him in the centres when everyone was available, and I don't think that really... He can play there, but I don't think that really suited him. Effectively, I think he's either a 1 or a 6. I prefer him at 1. I prefer him playing at fullback. He's played Origin. I had a good talk to Billy Slater about him some time ago, and he really rated him. Which was important. I really like AJ Brimson as a player, but he's signed for till 2030. I
think he signed forever.
Long-term deal. So they've obviously got a plan for him. But I'm like you. I wonder how they fit them all in.
How do they fit them all in? Keeney's been terrific.
Yeah, I'd always believed. I always had this idea that if you could get hold of Jaden Campbell, you could make an NRL 7 out of him. I think that was going to be his position in time as he matured and grew into it. Everyone played him fullback because he was a bit small and they worried about him defending in the front line. But as he's sort of matured and he's a tough kid, I don't think it will worry him. And I think he's a 7. I think he's a creative 7 that if you could play him for a few years with an experienced 6 like a Foran or someone like that, would really master his trade. He's played a bit in the 5'8" role for them up there. He might have even been named at halfback this week. But
I think Foran's there.
4 or 4, it doesn't matter, 7 or 6, 6 or 7 where they're playing.
His old man went from fullback and wing into the halves and won a comp.
Well, the same thing with Preston. Preston was exactly the same. He's a footballer. He's just a real footballer. He makes things happen, and he can take advantage of what other skills that they've got as well. So, I really like Jaden Campbell as a player, and looking at him, thinking, look, I think he's going to need to be a 7 in the halves, a 7 or a 6. Mm-hmm. Keanu Kinney is a very fast, elusive runner, not a very big kid. Get found out a little bit on his try line, where fullbacks have got to defend in the line. He gets targeted a lot there. But he's still got a long way to go in his career. He'll develop the necessary there, but everyone in the Gold Coast has been talking about him for a number of years. And
could you see a circumstance where the Titans might let Brimson go?
I wouldn't think so. I don't know. I wouldn't think so though. But I'm still wondering how they fit them all in. I would imagine after Foran goes, and Foran is obviously a Des Hasler favourite, and he's obviously the leader of the club at the moment. So they're trying to squeeze as much time out of him as they can. He just played his 300th game the other day. I would think that probably Campbell and Brimson end up in the halves.
They signed Carter Gordon from rugby too.
Yeah, well, that's another one. Yeah.
I reckon they're trying to get what they can out of Foran to give Gordon time to get used to rugby league, probably.
Maybe.
One of the reasons.
Maybe. But as you say, they've got a wealth of riches there and it doesn't all fit in. And that's when you think about their front row talent too and their forward talent. I mean, they've got Vasua Malaawi, they've got Mo Whatuaka, they've got Fafita, and they've got some big money forwards there. And if you've got those players, Campbell, Brimson, Foran, Keeney, and what you're going to have to pay those fellas. And then, Khan Pereira and Kelly and those fellas in the outside backs are really good too. Philip Sammy, young JJ Fida. I think it's a side that could improve rapidly next year, with another off-season under Des Hasler.
And Tino back.
That's what I mean, for sure, Malay. Yeah. Tino back. They played without him this year. So, the Gold Coast, to me, I expected to do better this year, and I certainly expect them to improve remarkably next season. And I can't see how AJ Brimson's not a part of that team somewhere. Whether he's satisfied playing in the outside backs or coming off the bench is another thing, but I'd imagine he's on good money. It's
big money, yeah. Big money to come off the bench and play hooker.
Seems a bit strange. But anyway, I'm not going to second-guess Des or the Gold Coast Titans. They know what they're doing.
So the AFL a few years back, Gus, decided they'd have a bye the week before the finals started, and everyone was universally going, boo, this is boring, we've got nothing to do, and you lose all the momentum. So my question to you, Phil Gould, should the NRL have a bye the week before the finals?
Well, I'm not going to say it's a bad idea, but it is going to lengthen our season's too long as it is anyway, and we play too much football. But I think it just gives you that breath of fresh air before you run into the important part of the season and the back end of the season. Your top 8 sides are ready to go again, or you could even split the first. You could even split the first round of finals and play 5 and 8 and 6 and 7 in the first week, and then the second week you could play the top 4 and then move on towards your second week in your preliminary finals and make it a 5-week final series. So you'd have 2 games every weekend instead of 1 game. Instead of 4 games on that first weekend, split that first weekend up into 2. So
what would happen then if the
top 4 actually get a reward for their top 4 finish out of what's going to be a 20-team comp eventually? That you get a week off leading into those games.
Would they get another week off though if they won again?
Yeah.
Is that too much?
No, I don't think so. I've been through that before. I think any time you can have off during September when your opponents are playing, is good.
Yeah.
Unless you're sitting in a pub and your season's over. It's not very nice then.
Oh, well, I suppose it depends where you come from.
No good watching it on TV.
Depends where you come from.
You want to be there when the balloons go up, mate.
Mate, there's a few teams I think who wish they're in the pub at the moment, actually.
Eh?
There's a few teams probably wish they're in the pub at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're all finishing it off pretty well. I mean, there's a fight going on down at the bottom of the ladder, and there's still some hope for teams in the middle. I think everyone needs a good finish, and I think the players have got a bit of pride in. There'll be players playing for contracts, and I do think that when the season proper ends, we might then start to see some clubs looking to adjust their rosters and players becoming available. I think there'll be a bit of a sale period during the finals as well.
What do you know?
I don't know anything. That's just the feeling I get because there's not a lot on the market at the moment, and I think clubs will be looking to adjust their rosters. I just try to keep a close eye on what everyone's doing. I think there'll be some movement. I think we're about to see some movement.
Got a shopping list?
No. We don't have a shopping list. I'm just looking to keep the ones we've got.
All right, 80-year-old Ron Coote, as we've touched on already, a man universally respected and loved in rugby league, was moved to tears upon his elevation to immortal status last night. Let's hear a little bit of what he had to say.
I've always worked hard, but I've always had a lot of luck with it, so that's been good too. And like I said, I really appreciate everything what rugby league has done for me.
And indeed what he's done for the game. So 148 premiership games for Souths between 64 and 71, and then 109 games for the Roosters between 72 and 78. 4 grand finals with the Bunnies, 2 with the Roosters. Played 15 games for New South Wales and 42 games for Australia, only 23 of which were classified as test matches. In 1970, he captained Australia to the World Cup in England. He was instrumental to the big feud, wasn't he, between Souths and East. Like it was sacrilege to move between those clubs back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. There's a chapter, I'm sure, in the book, in the book of feuds. But
So was that a massive blow up?
not really.
No.
Not really. No, because there was some movement between Souths and Manly, and Roosters and Manly, and Roosters and they're all great rivals. They all hate each other. I mean, I remember when I was coaching at the Roosters, if we wanted to buy a player, all I had to say to Nick was that he's talking to Manly, and that would get the deal. He hated anyone going to Manly.
Right.
He hated anyone going to South. And they've traded partners, they've traded boundaries. There's a lot of rivalry between those two clubs. But Ron Coote, because of his status, not only as a player but as an individual, sort of transcended that. He's still highly respected by both clubs, and I think they still play for the Ron Coote Cup.
Yeah,
when
they do.
play each other. Yeah, so he was very successful in business too. I think he had one of the first ever McDonald's in Australia.
Yeah, I think
might
that's
have been
right.
at King's Cross somewhere.
I read a lovely story actually that he'd be out. He had a few McDonald's. He was out in the car park, sweeping up the car park, and people would sort of be eating their Big Mac and wind the window down and go, "What are you doing here?" His response was, "Well, I've got to earn a crust somehow."
Yeah.
Little did they know that he owned a series of
understand,
franchise. Yeah. David Middleton, who I always find a great barometer when it comes to these things, has been saying to me about Cam Smith. And when they adjusted the guidelines, my initial thinking was, well, it's going to be Smith.
Yeah.
But he always says there's no rush for these things. And I think last night's a great example of what he's talking about there.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of sitting on the Immortals committee last time, and I was actually on there with Wayne Bennett and a number of David was on it, and I think and we inducted 5 people into the Hall of the Immortals was originally a rugby league week promotion. It wasn't something that was brought in by the game itself to recognise the talent. It was a rugby league week promotion, and the first 4 inductees I think were Clive Churchill, Johnny Raper,
Graham Langlands
Graham Langland,
and Reg Gasnier. Sorry, Churchill, Fulton, Gasnier, Raper.
and Raper were the first 4. And then it took a long time before the number 5 came in. And we sort of got to the point where when we sat down last time, they wanted to induct 2. And I thought the 2 that should be inducted, certainly from the post-war era, were Meninga and Norm Provan. And there was sort of agreement that maybe they'd be the next 2 to come in. But we also thought we should go back and recognise pre-war contributors who weren't considered when Rugby League Week first started. Rugby League Week sort of started it from the 50s, 60s. And we kind of took some liberty there and said, well, if they had their time over again, would they have recognised pre-war people as a mark of respect to the game and a mark of respect to their contribution? And they did. And we were given the task of inducting 2 people into the Hall of Fame. We inducted 5. And it was pretty well received at the time. So I got a good insight into how they discuss these things and who they discuss, and I've had my own thoughts on it all the time. And when you're talking about, your Thurstons and your Smiths and those sort of fellas, I thought we inducted Andrew a bit too early, post-career. I just thought you leave it a bit longer, they'd appreciate it a bit more later on. I've never really spoken to Andrew about it. I mean, Andrew was obviously going to be an immortal, but I think the likes of Cam Smith and Thurston and these fellas, when they do get inducted, Darren Lockyer, I think eventually will be inducted. I think they'll appreciate it later in their life when their kids are grown up, and then they can relive their contribution to the game. And people of our vintage who've seen them all play, remember it. I think sometimes you waste it because they're in their career, close to their career. They've got all the accolades. They're getting them all the time. They've won competitions. They've won Player of the Years. It's kind of like you just throw another accolade on top of it. But I think to be remembered 20 years later gives it that immortal status. That's what the immortal is. Your name is immortalised in our game. It's here you are 20 years after your career. I mean, for a lot of us, after our career's over, it's 5 minutes and everyone's forgotten who you are. But the immortal is the one that'll never be forgotten. And if you look at all the names we've looked at, their names have never been forgotten. When we talk about eras of rugby league, they're the names that keep popping up, and that's what I think is the immortalisation of the name. So Ron Coote, I think, had missed them. I think he should have been inducted much earlier.
So why wasn't he?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't a part of that process. But he should have been inducted much earlier. and we probably inducted some younger ones a bit too soon. I think, but I wasn't a part of that process, and I'm not criticising it. I'm just saying that that's how I would have looked at it. I think just by virtue of the immortal thing. So the Hall of Fame is the recognition you can get sort of at any time, and that's a wider reaching. How many Hall of Famers do we have now? We have over 100.
Yes,
Hall of
it's
Fame.
130 or something.
Yeah, so.
And different categories as well.
And the really great players and contributors and coaches and media people that have contributed greatly to the game will end up in the Hall of Fame, and it's closer to their career, etc. Some are getting it later in life, but the immortal thing was kind of like the next level, and they're the names that will be immortalised. People will talk about them long after they're gone.
You know, I like about it. I've mentioned. It looks. There's something grand about seeing a now elderly man up there being recognised in this manner. But it connects the current day game with yesteryear, and there's kids that would have no idea who Ron Coote is that are looking him up now.
Yeah.
I just like that. I like that the game. It's not the same game in the way it's played, but it is the same history.
And thanks to YouTube, I mean, I see football games on YouTube now that we never saw as kids. We never saw these things as kids. Someone's obviously filmed them, but it was never on TV. It was never shown games in those days. I remember growing up as a kid, the highlight of our cricket presentation at the end of the summer.
Yeah, you said that. You watched the grand final.
Was watch the grand final from the previous year on one of those reel-to-reel tapes. And it wouldn't be the full game. It'd just be the edited movie tone version with that funny voice the bloke used to use. Like, they were outstanding. But that was the highlight of the night. Wow, we saw the grand final that was played last year. Like television wasn't what it was today back then, and kids are spoiled. They see every game every week and every minute, and it wasn't like it back then.
You weren't able to send tweets watching the replay of the grand final.
No. So, and I often sit down on YouTube and go back into the past and just type in stuff and see what's around, and you can actually watch footage back from years ago, 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Someone's taken the film somewhere. And then someone's gone to the trouble of getting it right to put on YouTube, and you can watch it. And if you key in Ron Coote Rugby League, you'll go back and see some nice packages on him in what he really was like as a player.
Well, there you go.
But getting back to that, the thing I think is good is that now that the NRL has taken over the Immortal process, which was that was a Rugby League Week publication promotion at the time. I don't think they realised how big it was going to be in the game's history over the years, and the league has sort of taken over the controlling of it. And I thought it was really nice that they combined the Hall of Fame with the immortal thing, so that it's just not one night where an elderly Ron Coote gets up and accepts award, and who and the people, but it linked the past with the future, with the past with the current date today. So it was to be surrounded by all those others, and even going back to the other ones that were inducted last night from different eras, and the more modern day ones that we've seen in recent times. So, I think they're getting all that right. I think most clubs now have their kind of Hall of Fame and recognitions and legends or whatever they call them, and there are different levels of that. But the immortal thing, I think they'll keep that status, and I think the more distance you leave between their playing career and that award, I think just re-establishes the gravity of their name.
Yeah.
And the profile of their name.
So, in addition to Ron Coote, as Gus has just touched on, 11 male players: Lionel Morgan, who was the first Indigenous man to play for Australia, Les Boyd, Benny Elias, Steve Renouf, Cam Smith, Jonathan Thurston, Billy Slater, Benji Marshall, Cooper Cronk, Greg Inglis and Sam Burgess were admitted to the Hall of Fame. 6 female players: Natalie Dwyer, Katrina Fanning, Tasha Gale, Veronica White, Karen Murphy and Tani Norris. 2 referees: Cole Pearson, Bill Harrigan. He'd love that Bill. 2 coaches, Jack Gibson and Wayne Bennett, and 4 contributors: Frank Hyde, Ken Arthurson, John Quayle and David Morrow were inducted to the NRL Hall of Fame last night. Firstly, Cam Smith, very emotional.
Yeah, Mum was, she was a big part of my life and a big part of my football career. She loved the game of rugby league. She was heavily involved in my junior football in particular. She was a life member of my junior football club, Logan Brothers. She did a tremendous amount of work there for 20 odd years, and I think she'll be pretty chuffed with this.
Well, she's watching you tonight, Cameron.
Yeah,
she's with us tonight.
Thanks, Ross.
Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, Cameron Smith.
Yes, everyone's chuffed. I mean, the opinion of many people, including Andrew Johns, best player to ever play the game, Cameron Smith. But it's a great acknowledgement, actually, of that dominance of that dominant Queensland era. I like that. I like that it's not just Cam, but it's his offsiders in Inglis and Slater and Cronk and Thurston, etc.
And the Melbourne Storm as well.
And the Melbourne Storm, yeah.
He came through an incredible era for his club and his state and country. I remember after a few years of him playing and watching him, someone asked me to comment on Cameron Smith, and I said the one thing that strikes me is whoever he plays for wins. His team wins, and that can't be a coincidence. So
where do you rate him? The players you've seen?
I never thought I would see in my day anyone play over 400 first-class games in this competition. Never ever thought I'd see that. It's just too hard physically. I know.
So it's 400 first-class games.
Yeah, 500 first-class games, but first-grade games.
First-grade games, yeah.
Over 400 first-grade games. I mean, I know we saw a couple get to 300, but I would never have envisaged anyone getting over 400 in this game, the way it's played. So his resilience and his toughness and his longevity was extraordinary, but his influence on football and football teams was incredible. His leadership and just the role of that. It was the one thing that stuck out for me. Well, and this was very early in his career. If whatever team he plays for, they win. They just find a way to win. And the likes of Cooper Cronk and Billy Slater and probably Inglis, with that Melbourne Storm team and a lot of other players down there, careers benefited greatly by playing with a player like Cameron Smith, who had the leadership and the control and the vision that he had. And like when you look at him physically, I mean, he's not a big man. He's
not a big man, no.
He's but obviously big in stature and great football IQ and great work ethic. To play all those years and avoid injury or play with injury, and he would have played with injury plenty of times. It's an extraordinary achievement.
He missed one Origin game in his whole career, though.
Yeah. I remember his first ever Origin game when he came in, and and there was all that talk years ago about the grapple tackle with the Melbourne Storm and the wrestling tactics and all that sort of thing. And we came into Origin 3. We'd already won the series. We won game 1 and we won game 2, and I took the Origin side up to Foster, Tuncurry.
Oh, yes.
For a week's preparation.
That was just Booker night.
Yeah, to have a bit of a party for a week. You rarely get to celebrate the series win, and we probably overdid it a little bit. I'm not using that as an excuse, but we got belted in game 3. But game 3, I think, was Cameron Smith's debut. And I remember thinking during the game, he's different, this kid. He brought something to their team straight away.
Yeah.
We beat him again the next year. I think we beat him again the next 2 years. I think we won in 2004 and then Ricky Stewart 2005. And then from there, they went on the big run after that. So it took him a couple of years to really influence it, but there was a distinct shift the moment that he came into Origin, even as a young player.
You've got vast experience in the game, and I know you're not prone to make big statements, but that, for me, that's the best team I've ever seen, man for man. There's never been a better team than that.
Queensland?
Yeah. With the players that we just mentioned there.
Yeah, I don't like to do that because of eras, and I think it's unfair to compare eras, different rules, different standards, different fields, different opportunities. They're full-time professionals, others weren't, so it's certainly one of the great achievements in our game. I mean, for an Origin, I would never have thought that Origin would see a period of dominance like that for either state. I just didn't see it. And I think in 2004, my last game as coach in 2004, which I think he played, we beat them here in Sydney, and it was the first time in Origin history New South Wales had gone to the front in Series 1 and Games 1 and points scored. First time in the 25 years since the inception that they'd actually got to the front, and won again in 2005 under Ricky Stewart. But from then, to see a team, what did they win, 11 out of 12 or something like that?
They lost 14 and then won three in a row after that.
It's ridiculous. I just never, ever envisaged that would happen.
But the players that weren't inducted last night, part of that team, Boyd, Sivanasiva, Price, Webke, Who else was there? All the workers they had, Harrison and Johnson and Falau, and
who all benefit from playing with those great players.
Yeah.
Who all benefit from playing with Cameron Smith. It's kind of like it's a team game, mate. It's not just about individuals. I know
No, of
individuals get the accolades, but it honestly is a team game. And I say this even with development of younger players, they can be lucky or unlucky into what environment they first walk, or to what team they're first playing with, or how competitive, or what the leadership's like, and what the culture is like. And for any of those players who got the opportunity, it was the same back in the 70s. I remember Roosters won a competition. I don't think they went through undefeated, but they won the grand final 38-0. And they had great players, wonderful players playing for Eastern Suburbs, including Ron Coote. But they all deferred to Arthur Beetson. Every one of them deferred to Arthur Beetson. So you had your Fairfaxes and your Schuberts and your Johnny Brasses and your Johnny Mays and all these great players that they had with them, but they all deferred to Beetson. Every one of them talks about Beetson being the captain, Beetson being the leader, but Beetson being the playmaker that brought them to light. Andrew Johns was a similar influence at the Newcastle Knights for many, many years. Players benefited from actually playing with him. We experienced it a lot with Brad Fittler. Queensland experienced, Broncos experienced a lot with an Alan Langer and a Darren Lockyer, and then all of a sudden Melbourne Storm gets Cameron Smith, and on the back of that comes Cooper Cronk and Billy Slater, and for a short time there Greg Inglis. But there have been players throughout history who actually make everyone else better around them, and they even defer to it. There's kind of like it's a team sport, and what we think about in clubland is very different to how the media see it and the fans see it. And that's in clubland, no one cares who gets the credit. No one cares who gets the credit for winning or success or anything like that, because it's a shared thing. But every now and then there is a player where you'll say, well, he's the reason. And it goes to the coaches too, like Jack Gibson and Wayne Bennett inducted into the Hall of Fame, because players who played under them gave them great credit for their careers and their achievements, and not just their achievements in football, but their achievements in life, and the influence that they had on them there. So they're the ones that get recognised with these particular these awards. So and it's wonderful for the game, and it's great to remember the history. Yeah. But Cameron Smith,
it's interesting. I'm sort of even in his role with us at Nine. I mean, I'm just sort of thinking, I get to work with him every week, as do you. He kind of has that effect even in the commentary box. And he's an unassuming bloke, Cam. And there's nothing overt, like he's not over the top. And he's kind of one of the guys. But even when he walks into the commentary box, you feel there's an aura.
There's an aura about him.
But it's not
no risk.
It's an aura of it's hard to define what it is like.
I think he commands great respect for his achievements, but he's also personable. He's also intelligent.
Yeah.
He's also well spoken. He's also analytical, and he also has a laugh and a joke, even at himself.
Yeah,
like he's kind of he's there is a humility about him that.
But you're with a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can feel that. There's no risk about that.
An emotional night as well for everyone, but obviously for the family and friends of the late David Morrow. It was announced around a week or so before he passed that David was elevated to the Hall of Fame for his remarkable career in broadcasting. It will always be one of the great privileges of my life that I was very fortunate to be with him, as was Mark Levy and his wife Christine when he was told of the news that he'd been elevated to the Hall of Fame. He was very emotional. He was in his dying days, unfortunately, but he knew the gravity of what had been bestowed upon him. David passed away in the early hours of the morning on the day of the Origin decider, you might remember, and there was a moment's silence before that game at Suncorp. And David's daughter Lucy spoke on behalf of he and the Morrow family last night.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pretty emotional moment. In the Hall of Fame, we welcome number 140, David Morrow.
Our family fundamentally believes that he could only pass because he finally had it. But it was very emotional. It was very emotional. It was one of the final days where he could actually speak. And so we're just nothing but grateful. We're nothing but grateful. He's in such esteemed company tonight. But just sheer gratefulness. He cannot believe that he got it. And we're so glad, and we believe that that gave him a peaceful passing. Yes.
Congratulations, mate. He'll never be forgotten, and he has his rightful place in the Hall of Fame. Great broadcaster for 50 years.
Incredible. Yeah, had a wonderful career and very well respected, very highly respected in the game. I can honestly say David Morrow never had an enemy. Can you think of anyone who didn't like him? I know he didn't like a few.
He had a few.
He didn't like a few.
He had a few.
I can't ever remember anyone saying a bad word about him.
No, he was just old school, Davey. He was just, but
He get lunch for Australia. He loved the lunch.
He's still the patron and chairperson of the Reshers Appreciation Society.
The Reshers Appreciation Society.
Badge number 1.
Yeah.
But I'm so pleased and proud. Some breaking news on the rugby league front as we walked in here. I just saw it pop up as we walked in. Isaiah Yongi, the impressive young fullback from Penrith's gone to Para for next year.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well,
What do you think about that?
That's a big move. Yeah, he's had the one first grade game, I think. He got a debut earlier this year, and I'd imagine they'll feel as though his pathway's a little blocked at there at Penrith. It's an interesting swap, isn't it? Blaze Talangi, who was touted as Parramatta's rising star in the outside backs, has gone to the Panthers, which is a great buy for them, and then they lose Isaiah Yongi going the other way towards Parramatta. Now, from where I sit, Isaiah Yongi to me is a fullback and a fullback only. I think that's not only his preferred position, but looking at him, I think that's his best and only position. And they've got Clint Gutherson there.
He's been touted for a move for a while, though, hasn't he? Gutho away from fullback.
Where are you going to play him?
Well, I've heard anywhere from centre to lock to hooker.
Crikey.
Yeah. I'd imagine he'll go to the centres. But Lomax is going there too, so...
Yeah.
And he's not going to play on the wing, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Clint Gutherson, because there's a fair bit of scuttle around as to whether or not he moves from Parramatta as well. Now, I don't want to put that out there, but that's what I'm saying. There's a lot happening in the market.
How long's this scuttle been around for?
There's plenty of scuttle. I'm not even saying it's true, but I'm just saying this is the sort of stuff that's going on behind the scenes everywhere about clubs looking to change their roster and move on, and
So, sorry, are you hearing scuttle that he wants to move or the club wants him to move?
No, I don't know what it is. I'm just saying that there are clubs out there inquiring as to whether or not he'd be available.
It'd be a massive signing, wouldn't it?
One club in particular is actually making noise that they want him. So, we're just sort of all watching this space to see what Parramatta do about that.
Give me a hint.
No, there's no hint. I won't give them up.
What? Are they from New South Wales or Queensland?
I'm not going to give them up.
Well, everyone would want Gutho, wouldn't they?
Well, he's a leader. He's competitive. I can't understand why Parramatta wouldn't want him. I mean, if I was going to Parramatta as a new coach, he'd be the first bloke I'd sit down and talk to find out what's happened there and what's going on and where they need to go. But it's an interesting signing, Yongi, coming from Panthers to Parramatta. He's a good kid. He'll play first grade. He'll play plenty of first grade.
I guess from reading between the lines, they maybe feel that there's a bit of a sameness about their attack and they want to try and spark it somehow.
Well, I
and
think
by
it was
moving Gutho might be the way to do it.
Well, I think it was even Gutho's suggestion last year, didn't he? Say, if you want to go out and buy a fullback, I'll play another position. He was sort of saying we need some strike and we need some speed and all that, and he probably felt that he couldn't contribute the way he always has at fullback. I mean, his game the other night when they lost to the Panthers was extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary performance.
Well, he tried his proverbial off against the Roosters the other night.
Yeah, he did. Well, yeah, that might be the game I'm thinking about. Well, they're both great, but he's such a competitor and such a leader, and it'd be hard to imagine Parramatta going without him. And I think that's been recognised by other clubs who are looking at a new coach going there, the shuffling of their roster, and we've all sort of known for a few weeks that Yongi was dealing with Parramatta, and they were just sort of carving out the numbers. He was always going there, but they just had to work out the numbers, and they were waiting to see what Blaze Talangi did, and et cetera, et cetera. So there was all those things. All right, well, what's going to happen with Gutho? Where's he going to go? They've got Brown and Woods in the halves, Mitchell Moses in the halves. So
He'd be good for both, Gutho.
they've bought Zach Lomax, who we assume is going to play centre probably.
They do lack a little bit of depth in the outside backs, Para. I mean, I think the writing's on the wall that they want Sevo to move on.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. These sort of things are being in and around the game, these are the whispers that you get. And a lot of them I ignore because they're just whispers and rumours, etc., etc., etc. But there has been whispers around this for some time.
Geez, you've got your ear to the ground. Gutho, I can't believe that Gutho. Gee, I have to find a new king of para.
I think he'll always be the king. Doesn't matter where he plays. I'd be shocked if he left Parramatta or the Parramatta let him go. But funny game, rugby league, Matthew.
West Tigers?
Funny
Is
game.
it the West Tigers?
They've got a fullback, Jermaine Buller, who's an outstanding young prospect. But if you're looking for leadership, I'm sure they could fit him in somewhere. Like, I think Gutherson would be an outstanding boy for any club, even at this stage of his career. But as to whether or not Parramatta would ever consider releasing him and whether or not they feel they have other priorities, I mean, there's scuttle around that one of the front rowers is going to be moving. They're looking to, they've got to make some changes to their roster to buy the ones that they want to buy. But there's a few clubs in the same boat. But there's one club in particular that's making noises that they think that they want Gutherson.
If I guess it, will you tell me?
No.
I was going to go through all 17. You know what? That might dovetail well with this first question from Harry, who says, with the Bears set to return as the 18th team, what players and coach would you want the team to prioritise first?
Yeah, it's a really good question, isn't it? And this is something that we have to consider with the other clubs and something that I'm trying to say to our recruitment team and everybody as well, and even in the retention of players. You've got to understand that when they announce that, or have they announced that the 18th team is coming in, it's going to be Perth, and when can they start buying players? Again, that's going to have an influence on the market. We've got a number of teams this year that have performed below expectations. We've still got teams that have been trying to get out of the cellar for some time. We've got 17 teams that's going to go to 18. Eventually they want it to go to 20. That puts a lot of pressure on recruitment and puts a lot of pressure on the price of players, what they can command. It increases the power of the player manager to negotiate and doing things long term, pressure on your club. So internally in clubs, I'm saying to them, we probably need to be a little bit more proactive and a bit more forward thinking in our retention and what's coming through the development pathways and what's our team look like. Like, my head's constantly, for the last 12 months, I've been working on what our 2026 squad looks like. But now I'm thinking, all right, I need to think longer than that, because if the Bears come in 2027 or 28, whenever that's going to be, it means they're going to start looking for players on the 1st of November next year. So I don't really want to have to be competing with them for players that we want to retain. And I'm sure there are a lot of other clubs, if they're doing the job, are thinking exactly the same way. They'll look at the better performing NRL teams. They'll look at the better performing New South Wales Cup teams. They'll look at the better performing junior rep teams. Those that are running really good pathways programs and trying to, so if you're starting up a new club, you want some, recognised high-performing senior talent. You want some experience and talent in key spine positions. And then you need to marry that up with, because you're probably going to have to pay a premium to get them, right, to get them to move across the country to Perth. So there's going to have to be a premium package to get people to take that leap of faith to start with a new club, which is what happened with the Dolphins. And they're going to have to marry that up with a number of kids. Right? And whatever's happening in their junior league across there, advance their junior league programs across there, maybe get some kids playing over with some NRL clubs in programs here.
Is there any players coming out of Perth?
Yeah, there have been over the years. A few. Yeah, but,
But you can't rely on it as a breeding ground for talent at the moment.
No, they need to start now and start building whatever they've got there. And it will explode. They will increase the size of their junior league over there. There's a lot of expat Eastern Seaboard people living in Perth. And franchises in Perth in any sport have always done well. And I don't think this one will be any different. I think it'll be a great acquisition to the game. But I guess they're the sort of, and you want to, your first purchases want to be purchases that attract other players. All right, well, if he's going to go there, I'll go. If he's going to go there, I'll go. It's kind of like, you need
Gutho. Get Gutho to Perth.
Well, yeah.
Will says, well, actually, he doesn't. He makes a statement. Tackled player grabs defender's jersey in an attempt to prevent him getting back on side. One of my pet peeves in the modern game.
Happens a lot, doesn't it?
Is it a professional foul or not? Was the bit on the end.
Oh,
Another sin bin?
We penalise enough things, don't we? Don't start me. Don't start me.
Roughly what percentage of players are nursing something that is one good tackle away from extended time on the sidelines, asks Damon. And he mentions that in relation to Nathan Cleary.
Yeah, look, we're always battling with, and medical teams are always battling with. Let me tell you, NRL players run onto the field to play NRL football with injuries that would keep the normal man in bed. Right, let alone out playing rugby league in the toughest sport. You know, it's what these fellas endure is incredible during the course of the season. A large number of our players at this time of year are all carrying something. What we try to do is not risk anything that is going to certainly be life-threatening, career-threatening, but even more than that, risk a long-term injury situation. So in the case of Nathan Cleary will need shoulder surgery at the end of the year anyway. He actually knew that last January because he did this injury early in the preseason. And if it's what I think it is and what it looks like and what it sounds like, without looking at the actual reports, I think it's something they said, well, we'll get by with this till the end of the year and then we'll have our surgery in the off-season. Plenty of players do that. Plenty of players carry this injury throughout the season and then get their surgery at the end of the season.
Is that the sublux? Is that
it can get? Sometimes it's a sublux. Sometimes it's what they call a labrum tear. Sometimes it's like there are different things around the shoulder muscles, to ligaments and that sort of thing that can happen. A complete dislocation's different, But
right? So did his pop out? Is that what happened?
I don't think it did. Well, it certainly wasn't the mechanism to pop out.
Right.
If it did, it might have gone. Mightn't have come out. It might have gone backwards a little bit. I'm not a physiotherapist. I'm not trying to be. All right, but I just know that from the history of these sort of things, there are different mechanics to it, and it didn't look like a mechanic where his shoulder where the ball had come out of the socket and then gone back in. That's the bad.
It looked very innocuous, actually.
Yeah, but the reason why it hurt was because he actually had an existing injury there. All he's done is stirred it up and hurt it. I'm quite sure that if there was a grand final this week, Nathan Cleary would be playing.
Yeah. And you can needle that stuff, can't you?
Where they are on the ladder, well, you really can't in some cases. You can't needle it, but where they are on the ladder, they've got the luxury of being able to rest him and then only put him out there for the important ones and limit his time. If you remember last year with Jerome Luai, people were wondering whether or not he would get back, and he came back for the preliminary final, and he was outstanding. People forget he actually got replaced in the grand final. He was gone in the grand final, right? Cogger had to come on and finish up the game for the last 20 minutes. Jerome Luai was gone. So
changed the game for him too.
Yeah, the shoulder injury is real, and if you get knocked in the wrong way, it's going to go. So, in the case of an injury like that, not just talking Nathan Cleary, where you're playing knowing you're going to have surgery anyway, then you can't make it much worse than it is. If it goes, it goes, and that's too bad. You probably wouldn't take those risks with anything around your knees or ankles or neck injuries and those types of things, because that can be quite long term and in some cases even catastrophic. So there are some things you will take a risk with and some things that you don't. Generally, the rule of thumb is if you can't make it any worse or you're not risking something that's career-threatening or life-threatening, then generally the footballer will play with it. And it's easier to play with stuff above the waist than below the waist.
So the Panthers are hoping get him in finals week 1, maybe win, get a week off.
Well,
go through the prelim.
Depending. I mean, they can lose week 1 and still go on in week 2, and they've won the competition from that way before.
But with respect to Cleary as well.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, do they, and depending how bad the injury is and how much risk they're taking with it as to breaking down completely, whether or not, would they risk him in game 1 if they knew they had a second bite of the cherry? Or would they hope that they win that without him, get another fortnight's break and he plays in the preliminary final, which is what they did, I think, last year with Luai, didn't they?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, the medical staff out there will know exactly what they're doing, and they've been down this road before, and so does Nathan. If they were in a knockout situation, sudden death, they'll throw him in. But until you get to that sudden death situation, is the risk worth it to put him out there, and can we win without him? And they've shown that they can win without him quite often. They'll know what they're doing with it. But if it was sudden death this week, if they needed to win to make the 8, he would be playing. If this was the grand final this week, I got no doubt that he would tough it out and go out and play. They'd strap him up and he'd get out there and he'd know how to get through with it. And there are a lot of players in the game at this stage of the year that are doing exactly the same. Exactly the same. There are a lot of players that aren't training during the week. Their training is severely restricted. The fellow we talked about earlier today, I said Jacob Carraz. Any number of times this year he's been ruled out on Thursday night, but he's played on Saturday. They're tough beings, mate. They're tough beasts.
Oh, no, absolutely.
But the rule of thumb with doctors and coaches and everything is that we don't want you to play with anything that could get significantly worse or be career threatening if you actually pursued it. So you wouldn't send them out there with partially torn ACLs or partially torn MCLs and those sort of things where it risks blowing the whole knee and all that sort of thing. You wouldn't send them out there with nerve damage in the neck or any sort of spinal condition because the result there could be catastrophic. As tough as they are, sometimes you've got to protect them from what they are, and that's the same goes for concussion and those sort of things. So the medical teams are on top of it; they know what they're doing. But the players don't underestimate the toughness of our footballers and their constitution to play with pain and injury, and they do it regularly at this time of year.
I'm not sure anyone's underestimating them. It's been lovely to see Mary there with him, helping his rehab, walking into the scans hand in hand. Find every man as a great woman or other way around. You're not moved by that?
No.
She seems like a lovely girl.
I'm sure she
And
is.
he'd be a model partner, wouldn't he? He'd be... I mean, you've got daughters. If one of them brought Nathan home, you'd be cheering.
I'd let Nathan marry my daughter. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if my daughter would be too fussed about it.
He's a good-looking rooster, Nathan.
Eh?
Good-looking rooster.
I often said that about his father when I coached his father. And there are very few footballers I would say this about.
Especially the ones you coached.
But I remember when we got him to come and coach the Panthers, and I was sort of telling people we'd signed Ivan Cleary, and it was at the presentation night, and I said, "You'll fall in love with Ivan." I said, "He's one of the very few footballers that I coached I would let marry one of my daughters." He was such a nice bloke.
Oh, they're good people. All right, 6 tackle trivia. So the Storm and the Dolphins this week. I'm calling that for the radio. I think it's going to be a very good game. But the last time Wayne Bennett defeated Craig Bellamy, coaching head-to-head, was round 25, 2016.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow.
Brisbane beat Melbourne 26-16. Billy missed the entire 2016 season with a shoulder injury. So the question is, who are the opposing fullbacks in that game?
Oh, crikey.
Brisbane defeated Melbourne 26-16 in 2016. No Slater. So who were the fullbacks?
Okay.
Long time ago, 2016.
It is. Darius Boyd
Tick.
for Bronco, and no Billy Slater for
No
Melbourne.
Slater.
So now I've got to try and think. Who would have played in 2016.
He's still on the side.
Is he really? Wow. 2016.
Doesn't mean he's playing the same position, but he's
I
still on the
know,
side.
yeah, it's not Pappenhausen. 2016, Jerome Hughes. He was a fullback for a while. 2016,
You're not far away, though.
Munster.
Correct.
Yeah.
Cameron Munster.
Cameron Munster.
Started as a fullback. Feels like an eternity ago.
Yeah.
I called him as a 17-year-old
Yeah.
playing fullback for the Capras in the Queensland Cup. I don't know how long ago that'd be. And the Capras couldn't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And he absolutely brained the opposition. He
Everyone-
was far too good.
Everyone was talking about him at the time. And this is the grapevine in rugby league. All talent scouts will go off to a junior school carnival somewhere, and all of a sudden they all come back talking about one player. Payne Haas, I remember. Bevan French was one player. that
Bevan
they all
French,
come back,
right.
they all come back raving about. Cameron Munster was a player they all come raving about. Every now and then they'll all come back raving about one player. And Cameron Munster was that player that they were all raving about in some carnival they went to.
And Butch Fat Nowder.
But that's my talent scout, Jimmy Jones.
That's such a good story. All right, NRL.
Poor old Jimmy Jones.
Oh, Jimmy. I still say about Penrith. He's a champion, Jimmy. You haven't got... What happened to the trotter you had with him?
We had a couple.
Have you not got any... You're not racing anymore?
No, we got rid of them.
No.
Yeah.
You won a race at Penrith though. Did you win any other?
Won a race at Penrith. We won 2 at Albion Park. We ended up sending a couple of trotters to Albion Park, and we won a couple of trot races.
What was it called?
Oh, I can't remember. I'm a He-Man. Kai Valley something. That's one of the Kai Valley horses. I can't remember the one we bought. We bought one over from New Zealand. Only won the one race, the Penrith Trots. It was the last race of the night. There was no one there. It was freezing cold. Jimmy and I are sitting in the grandstand, and Fred Hastings calling them. He come out of the. He said, "What are you two doing here?" I said, "We've got this horse in the last race." He said, "You're kidding." There was not a soul on the course.
Oh no,
It was only the
he's a good fella, Freddie.
friends and family.
Do you know it used to be a good night out at the Penrith Trots?
Oh, wonderful.
I used to in my younger days. Growing up there,
Yeah.
used to go off on a Thursday night.
There used to be Thursday night trots all the time. When I
Yeah.
first went to Penn, when we first started playing first grade, and all the footballers were punters, and Thursday night trots. So we'd be over the road training. And in the old days, the floodlights at the grounds, they weren't like they are now. We could just turn them on and off. In the old days,
They had to
when
warm them up.
When you turn them off, they had to warm up.
Yeah. It was like that at the cricket ground. You used to have to turn the lights on at 3 o'clock to get them
Yeah.
ready for when the sun went down.
I played at a cricket ground in a Monday night game one night for the Bulldogs, and the lights went off. I think it was a double header. We were the second game, and the lights went off halfway through the first game. It took them ages to warm up. Anyway, these lights at Penrith were they take for an age to warm up, right? And we're all dying to get to the trots across the road because our mate's got a horse in the first race, and the coach is getting a bit long-winded or whatever, So anyway, Kenny Wilson, God rest his soul, he's gone now, Kenny. Said, "Coach, I've got to go to the toilet." He said, "Off you go." So Kenny's got inside, and he's turned
Didn't
the
say
light.
which toilet.
He's turned the lights off.
Oh, did he?
He's turned the lights off. And he came in and said, sorry, I was looking for the light to the toilet, And we were killing ourselves laughing. And the coach said, "Oh, well, wrap it up." So, yes, straight in the shower across the road to the trots.
Did you get there in time?
Yeah.
Did it win?
Yeah. I can't remember. If it won.
used to
Not
be.
many things. But they used to have a greyhound track there, Penrith Dogs.
Yeah. I never saw that, I don't reckon.
Yeah, Jimmy Jones and I we were playing together back in the early 80s and or 1980, 79 or 80 something. So the night before the game, we used to always play on Sundays. We'd go to the Penrith Dogs on the Saturday night because he loved the dogs, and we'd sit up in the grandstand. And at the time, he was dating a young girl called Mary Cartwright, who was the sister of John Cartwright. And Mary Cartwright used to take us to the greyhounds, right? And we used to sit up the back of the grandstand, and she'd run down and get the food and put the bets on, all right?
Are you kidding?
Because we said we couldn't run up and down the stairs. We had to save ourselves from the game.
Oh, that's
So,
right.
so Mary,
That's outrageous.
I sat there one night and I said, and Jimmy, she'd come back with a pie with sausage for us. I said, "Jimmy, you're going to have to marry this girl, mate." He said, "Yeah, I think I will."
He did?
Yeah.
They still married?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jimmy married into the Cartwrights. I didn't know
Mary
that.
Cartwright, yeah. Mary Cartwright.
Geez, you're in esteemed company when you marry into the Cartwrights in Penrith.
Well, yeah. Old Merv approved him, so.
I don't think I've ever met Merv. Is he a
Merv?
good fella, Merv?
Great man, Merv. Yeah, he was part of the foundation of the club
Yeah.
many, many years ago. His sons all played first grade for the club. And his grandsons played for the club. Cartwright family was huge out there. It's still called the Merv Cartwright Medal, the Player of the Year, out there every year. They were great days and funny days. But I remember turning around to Jimmy Jones. She'd come back. She put the bets on.
I can't believe that.
She put the bets on and bought us both a pie. I said, "Jimmy, you're gonna have to marry that girl."
She put your bets on? That's incredible.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she did most of the talent scouting too. I later learned out that she was the brains behind the outfit, Mary Cartwright. And he tells the story. He went to watch a game one day, and he said she was with him. They'd gone down to down to Albury or Wagga or somewhere. They were down watching junior league football, and he said, "I really like the 9 and I really like the 8 here." He said, "They're good players." He turned around and he said, "What do you think?" She said, "You're the talent scout, Jimmy, but I think the 1's a superstar." Was Brett Mullins.
Oh. How many games have
So I think Mary
Mary,
Cartwright was
no?
the brains behind the outfit. I really do. She would have come back with Wendell Saylor.
Not
I know
Butch. I wonder how many games Mary's watched in her life.
Mary,
Yeah.
Millions. Never misses a game.
Loves it.
Yeah, loves it.
Isn't that great?
Champion Mary.
Mm.
Champion. Tough as teak too. She's tougher than the brothers. I wouldn't want to fight Mary Cartwright.
Yes, Jimmy Jones. So many Jimmy Jones. People love Jimmy Jones stories.
Champion.
He's the best. Well, NRLW.
So you got to marry that girl, Jimmy.
Mary should be the talent scout for the Panthers NRLW team when they come in. If they come in.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
All right, NRLW live on 9 across the weekend. 11 o'clock Saturday footy. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
The earlier the better. So Para Newcastle, Knights Andrew reckons have been a little disappointing, but they're favourites to beat Para, who are actually inside the top 4. They've had a couple of wins, which is a vast improvement on last year. Canberra up against North Queensland. That's Saturday, 12:45. I'm calling the midday game on Sunday, which I'm very much looking forward to because of the Titans and the Roosters. A couple of red-hot teams there. And then the West Tigers need to get going against the Broncos. That's not an easy task. And then, well, it's the Dragons and the Sharks and the men's and the women, Gus, on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, look, the women's game, and we've been pretty good with our tipping in it, just looking at the first month of football, and there's been some upsets, but really pretty level playing field. Other than the Tigers who've struggled to get away from the bottom, the Sharks are the only undefeated team after 4 rounds. The rest, everyone can beat each other, so they're all really close games. It'll be an interesting round of football there, and they're getting to the halfway mark of their competition, so every 2 points is vital. Looking forward to that Titans-Roosters game and the Dragon-Shark game in the women's on Sunday.
NRL, round 25. Got to give my man a rap. He's going pretty good, Gus, in the tipping. This is him last week. West Tigers, Rabbits, Campbelltown, Saturday night. Thoughts?
West Tigers, Rabbits. West Tigers, Rabbits. They're going to win one, Wes. They're going to win one.
I feel so sorry for him.
They're going to win a game between now and the end of the year. This is one they can win.
Oh, well, you didn't exactly say win that one. You said they'd win one between now and the end of the year.
I said this is one they can win.
Well, they did.
Yeah.
They're going to beat Manly tonight. Live and free on 9 from 7:30.
No,
That's a hard one.
no. They won't be beating Manly tonight. Not at this time of year. Anyway, we'll get to that game. Where do we start? I'll tell you,
that one.
Yeah, Thursday night, Leichhardt Oval. Yeah, Tiger v Sea-Eagle. Yeah, I think Sea-Eagle will be too good there. Sea-Eagle are on a mission at the moment. Did very well in the second half against the Warrior last week and put them away. And they're one of the clubs eyeing off a potential top 4 finish, just depending on what happens with the Sharks over the last 3 weeks.
Yes, that's the good, interesting point this weekend. So that's a big game on Sunday. We'll get to that. But if the Sharks lose, Canterbury win, they draw level on points. And if Manly win this tonight, they go a point behind. So huge pressure with respect to the top 4. Speaking of the Bulldogs, trip to Auckland to take on the Warriors at Shaun Johnson Stadium, Gus.
Yeah, and Shaun Johnson's last ever game at home. I don't know whether he'll play the last 2 games away, but he's obviously retiring at the end of this year. So plenty of emotion there. They're at full strength, the Warriors. Very hard to beat at home. Sellout crowd again. Geez, they've done well with their crowds over there this year. Sellout for every home game. Phenomenal performance. And
Max King going to play?
getting great support. I think there's a couple in doubt. And Max is on an extended bench. It was touch and go. They left Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning. So they've been over there for a couple of days. I'll probably know more tonight after they've finished their captain's run as to who exactly is going to play. But they had some busted ones over there. I think they took 26 players over there.
Really?
Just to cover for everyone. Well, the New South Wales Cup team and the Jersey Flag team do play in New Zealand on the weekend as well. Okay. So they were able to take enough players to have an opposed session over there.
Oh, yeah.
And to cover any injuries and what have you. So they didn't train here at all. They sort of recovered from the weekend. They had the flight back from Bundaberg. Got to remember they played in Bundaberg in pretty hot conditions on Saturday afternoon. They had to get a chartered flight straight back to Sydney, some recovery time, and then on a plane and across to New Zealand. And they thought they'd go early to acclimatise and try to put as much time between the flight and playing. So they've ticked every box. They've covered, given themselves every opportunity to do it. But a couple of years ago, we had to do this Bundaberg into Warriors. So we had to play in Bundaberg on one weekend and then Friday night against Warriors on the following weekend. So it's a very short turnaround, and you've got to go from Bundaberg in Queensland all the way to Auckland via Sydney. And we didn't fare too well. I think it was 18 all with 20 minutes to go, and we got beat 44-18 or something or other. They just fell in a hole. So hopefully that's not going to happen this week. But they've given themselves every chance with their preparation anyway. Warriors will be hard to beat.
Friday night footy, Broncos Para. Now, Brisbane, if they win their last three, are still a chance, but whether they can do that's another matter. Tristan Saylor, fullback, Walsh out. Now, has he had surgery? Is it?
They're
I
talking about
missed all
surgery,
this.
yeah.
So do
He
we
had a
know,
broken hand, I think.
do we know if he's going to be back?
I don't think he'll be back this year, no.
Oh, okay. And Ezra Mam's gone too, eh?
Hmm.
Ooh.
Gets to this point, so when you're out of the running for the 8, right, and I know you're saying mathematically they can get there. They can't get there.
They're saying they're gone.
Yeah. When you get to that point, then you start saying, all right, next off season's important. If he has his surgery now, he'll be back on November 1 or November 7. If he leaves it another 3 or 4 weeks, he doesn't get back till after Christmas. So you start thinking about next year rather than this year and what needs to be done from there, and then blood a couple of players and go from there. I'm not saying that was the decision made here, but yeah, you'll see this with a number of those teams that are out of the running. They'll be resting players and getting their surgeries done and getting them ready for a full and productive off-season. And I think despite whatever mathematical opportunity you think you have, that they won't be playing finals football. As to whether or not... Now, the Eels, what happened there?
They were awful in the first time.
They were terrific against Panthers the week before. I know they got run down in the final moments. It might have been a little bit heartbreaking, but it wasn't as though they cost them a spot in the 8 or anything like that. It wasn't, total devastation. They scored 34 points against the Panthers, who had the best defence in the league, and then the next week came out and just on a swamp. They played on a swamp.
How bad was that?
On a waterlogged ground and conceded. What they conceded? 40 points or something like that. It was just ridiculous. I don't know what happened there.
I think they might have had enough.
Well, that could be the case too, and could add weight to the fact that we're hearing scuttle about players looking around or players potentially being courted by other clubs. And, we do have anti-tampering laws in our game. You aren't supposed to talk to people on contract, but...
That don't seem to matter. Hey? When's the last time they policed the anti-tampering laws?
There's plenty talking up at the moment. Anyway.
Okay. Brisbane?
No.
No. Eel?
No.
Oh, no one.
They'll both run second.
Neither witness.
They'll both run second in that one.
So, Raiders... Canberra were disappointing last week.
Yeah,
Raiders, Panthers.
yeah.
So, Rapin, they miss Rapin. I mean, he sparks everything for Canberra.
Great player.
And he's back in the team at fullback.
Yep.
Weeks goes to 6 because Strange is out. The rest of the team looks pretty good.
Yep.
For Penrith, Schneider's at 6, Luai's at 7. They've lost Mitch Kenny. Big loss. Luke Summerton comes in there. Alamotti, Garner on the extended bench. So maybe some changes for Penrith. But they're exponentially more dangerous with Rapida in the team.
Oh, absolutely. Marvellous player, marvellous competitor. I can't understand what happened to the Raiders last week. It was kind of like the Bulldog game at Belmore Oval in front of the packed house there, which was a real tough affair, and Raiders just went down. They were still swinging at the final whistle. And it was kind of like that loss there. You felt as though it sort of broke them a little bit, or broke whatever aspirations they had of playing finals football. And then it made it mathematically. Once you get to the mathematical stage, you're under pressure. And it just fell apart for them against the Cowboys last week. They just got blown off the park and never competed at all. There'll be a bounce back. They do get back to home. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which will suit Panthers more than playing at 8 o'clock at night on a slippery surface. So you've got to favour Panthers. Have got too much to play for, but they'll have their own challenges as well.
Yeah, there's not. They've had barely any injuries for 3 years, and they've been knocked around this year.
Knocked around, and dilution of talent. Players have gradually gone away. Your Kick-Ows, your Coruscaws, your Crichtons and those sort of players have moved on. And some of the players that probably would have been used as depth players by this stage who are now playing NRL with other clubs as well. So, you can't be great forever, and they're still in the top 2 teams in the competition. It's a remarkable performance even this year. So I would have to think... Well, you just don't know what the Raiders will produce. I'd imagine there'll be a bounce back. I imagine they'll be better. Whether it's good enough to beat the number 2 team in the competition, I don't know.
5:30 Saturday. This is the last throw at the stumps, you'd reckon, for the Dolphins, Gus. They're a win out the 8.
Yeah, and Bennett's good at these types of things. Like he's good at getting them up for this game. Whether he can get them up 3 times now between now and the end of the season to mathematically keep themselves in the hunt remains to be seen. And the Storm now with a 4-point lead at the top.
That's interesting. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, they're not that Craig Bellamy's teams would ever be accused of being complacent or the importance of the game is not there. I think they'll all be fighting to play in finals football and press the coach.
By my reckoning, too, with the exception of Xavier Coates, they've got pretty much the whole squad to pick from.
Yeah, I think Storm will be too good, but I think Dolphin are a dangerous team. They've got points in them. I just don't think Dolphins got the defence to beat the Melbourne Storm. They might have the attack. I just don't think they got the defence, and it'll just be how grim Storm want to be or how ruthless they want to be as to what that score might end up.
Saturday night footy, you can watch it on 9, 7:30 at Core Stadium, South's Newcastle. Dean Hawkins back in the team. He's been out for a long, long time because of the injury. Injury to Cody Walker?
Mm-hmm.
And for Newcastle, Cogger and Crossland in the halves. What else is there? Not much to... Oh, Will Price is in 14 on the bench. And they get Lucas back, the utility who's playing in the centres.
Yeah, I think Knights will win that pretty comfortably. Impressed with them last week against the Sharks. They were unlucky to lose. But I think they'll beat the Rabbit.
Titans Roosters, 2 o'clock, Sunday. Beau Fermor, Fodawaker, both out. Sorry. Fermor and Fodawaker are back, my apologies. So Clark and Haas go to the bench. Khan Pereira, 8 tries in his last 5 games at Cbus Super Stadium. He's a leading try scorer in the comp. Aurea Hargreaves returns from 4 weeks out, so Lenu to the bench. No Connor Watson, so Butcher is going to play at lock. Now, who knows? Titans could come out and go bang, crash, wallop.
Yeah, well, they're certainly up and down, but their last 2 weeks have been deplorable.
Shocking.
Yeah, they've beaten 44-0. Who beat them 44-0? Sharks beat them 44-0.
With no halves.
Last week they were down 26-6 at half time against the Dragons and didn't really mount a comeback after that. You don't know what to get from the Titans. Roosters, if they're ruthless, should win by a lot. It just depends how badly Roosters want to post a score and how they defend. I'm saying Roosters need to get their defence in order for these last few rounds coming into the finals. They just might be better than everyone. We don't know, because I don't think we've seen the Roosters at their best. They just might be so much better than everyone else by the time we get to September. It doesn't matter. But I'm sure defensively the coach will want to see something this week. Rooster to beat Titan.
And then game of the millennium, this one.
Of the millennium.
Millennium. Talking it up. We need the ratings. Sunday afternoon footy coming to you from Wynn Stadium, Wollongong. There will not be a spare seat on the hill. Won't be a spare blade of grass. Dragons one change for Tala Mariner back, and the young kid King Tongia, who made his debut last week, shifts out of the squad. Trindle back from a shoulder at halfback, so Brayley goes to hooker, McInnes to lock. Ero's back in the centres. Wilton's back. Hazelton's back. But Sione Katoa, concussion, and Talakai, because of a calf, are out. So they're pretty strong, Cronulla. They've got the reinforcements back, but the Dragons, they're breathing fire, pardon the cliche, and down there in Wollongong.
Yeah, they've got them at home. They played each other earlier in the year, and I think you touted it as the game of the millennium at that time too.
Did I?
They played at the Bermuda Triangle, and Dragons never really got into it. It wasn't a massive scoreline. I think they could beat 20-10 or something or other, but they were never really in it. Since then, the Dragons have gradually improved. I think they've got the bit between the teeth now, because if they can win this one, they will play finals football definitely. And if we think the Storm will beat the Dolphins, then that should shore up their top 8 spot. The Sharks have got a few breathing down their deck for a top 4 spot, and
High stakes.
Yeah, it is at high stakes for them as well. So, as you say, this will be a great Sunday afternoon entertainment. Be a terrific game, local derby. Anything can happen down there in Wollongong, and I think, look, people were sort of criticising the Sharks last week. Whether they were expecting them to win by more, but there were some really good elements to their game last week. Remembering they played without
About a million blokes
their
there.
halves and Hazelton and Iro and that. So they had excuses, and I thought there were times in the game they were really good. They looked like a top 4 side. And Newcastle, to their credit, really battled hard with them. And Newcastle were probably unlucky with a couple of the rub of the greens during the course of the game. I'm going to think Dragon at home just to cap off their season and confirm their position in the top 8. So I'm going to go with...
Gee, you've softened a bit. I heard you say they were morals on Monday night.
who?
Dragon.
Oh, it's because Gal was there.
Oh, right.
It's subset
Easy,
Gal.
easy target.
Tiger and Sea Eagle. I'm going Sea Eagle to beat Tiger. I'm going Bronco O'Neill draw. I'm going Panther to beat Raider, Storm to beat Dolphin, Knight to beat Rabbit, Rooster to beat Titan, and Dragon to beat Shark. Are my tips for this week.
Very good. I'm glad we delayed the podcast because we've had so much more to talk about. Congratulations again.
Congratulations to Ron Coote. Wonderful man, well deserved, and the game's done a good service there. And to all those that made the Hall of Fame too, it's a wonderful recognition. Don't see that as anything less important than what the immortal status is. But the immortal is just that little step extra. As I say, the game that is immortalised in our game.
Thanks, Gus. See you over the weekend. That's 6 tackles for another week. Stacks of footy starting tonight with Thursday night footy and then women's rugby league right across the weekend and all the games as usual. Talk to you next week.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie in the 8.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.